Mass Effect Andromeda is coming soon, which means that millions of people are getting ready to have intergalactic intercourse with questionable creatures. I personally hope that some of these creatures will have tentacles and possibly a need to cover the body surface with slippery liquids, but since we don't really have a lot of information regarding it, I can't speculate too much. I'm sure you'd all want me to talk about my sexual desires during this entire video, but I wanted to discuss the game itself, how it will play and just how good can we expect it to be. Before going into the game details, I figured it would be best to make an introduction to those of you who are unfamiliar with Mass Effect Andromeda. The game takes place 600 years after the original trilogy, and it takes place in the Andromeda Galaxy, so the events from the first 3 games are largely irrelevant to this title. You could say it is a series reboot in a way. The player starts the game by choosing to play with Scott or Sarah Ryder, a couple of twins on board the Hyperion, an Ark starship that has been sent to Andromeda to find a place for the humans to live. When you think about it, this game is Elon Musk's wet dream. But anyway, the player will traverse the Andromeda Galaxy, visit planets, talk to aliens, maybe fuck Natalie Dormer if they get lucky, and explore. The developers have said that the game isn't open world, but it's exploration based, so my guess is that the movement will be limited to a few planets, but those planets will be non-linear and fully explorable, which sounds fine by me. So now that you understand the basics, we can get to the point. The first aspect that I wanted to discuss is the combat. We all know that this was the weak point of Mass Effect during its trilogy. Only the worst masochists enjoyed it. According to the people that already played the game, the combat seems to be quite fun now. It has an automatic cover system that may cause unwanted behavior sometimes, as is often the case with automated systems, but overall it seems like they improved it drastically. Both IGN and the official Mass Effect channel have released gameplay footage that focused on combat, and we were able to see how it functions. High-speed movement, variety of weapons and methods of taking down the enemy. It all looks very fluid, especially with the assistance of the jetpack. It's worth noting that the jetpack will be disabled when you're within cities on all the planets that you visit, so its use is limited. It's also interesting to think about all the other possible limitations that the game will have, and how will it impact the gameplay and the immersion. After all, a player will definitely not want the game crippling them for the sake of controlling the game design. What seems very promising is the game's weapon customization options. It seems like BioWare decided to give all the control to the players, because you're able to mix and match all sorts of weapons, even further than what Fallout 4 had, because it is possible to mix guns with launchers, lasers with shotguns, and who knows what else. The customization isn't limited to barrel and cartridge upgrades, and that makes me quite excited. I'm looking forward to seeing all the possible combos, especially in late game, when we get access to the hardcore stuff. When it comes to player customization and various skills that you can have, the game offers 3 styles: combat, tech, and biotics. To properly utilize a style, you'll need to pick a profile. As far as we know, there are 7 profiles, and each one of them specializes in one or a combination of the 3 mentioned styles. Each profile has 12 available skills, and each one of them can be upgraded. Some of the upgrade trees have branching options, out of which you can choose just one. All of these skills and profiles are swappable at any time, which means that you can play as a bionic soldier who sometimes uses a flamethrower, and then have a change of heart and start being a sneaky infiltrator that focuses on exploration. It feels like it makes the profiles slightly meaningless, since you can simply switch back and forth. It doesn't really seem to be related to the growth of your character during the game. If you had to choose one profile and stick to that profile the entire game, you'd think that the game would also adapt to it, and you'd have a different experience with others in the world. That should make sense, right? When all options are available at all times, it simply means you're everything all the time, and it doesn't affect anything other than your enjoyment in the freedom that the dozens of combat modes offer. Now you can simply say that it's easy to just pick one profile and ignore the others, but then my question is, will the game actually notice that? If I only use 2 weapons the entire game, will I gain a reputation as someone who only uses those weapons, or will all of my interactions with others depend on the previous dialogue choices only? This is why the profiles might be useless in terms of role-playing and character development, but useful if you want to have endless combat styles. To extend the combat styles even further, we will have a squad of characters that will be able to help us kill things. There's 6 of them, and aside from controlling them, we can also upgrade their abilities to suit our needs. It will allow for the existence of various combos in combat, and probably easier ways of defeating stronger enemies compared to trying to battle with them alone. I like this idea because it allows for more variety during combat, and it can help the player feel like they're not alone exploring the world and fighting evil things. I also kinda don't like it because we already have 7 profiles and a combination of 84 different skills to use at any moment. It feels like BioWare went all out when it comes to combat, giving us a million different options and combinations to do everything possible. Going even further, during combat, the favorites wheel will allow us to pin a profile and 3 skills to one button, which enables us to switch between combat styles very quickly. I do like this, since it simplifies the expansive combat customization that we have and allows us to quickly adapt to the situation without spending time in the options menu doing everything manually. That's all great and it does seem fun, but the combat likely won't affect your character, which makes me believe that people won't care about combat styles too much. It's gonna be fun, yes, but nothing more. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is the dialogue system and the overall RPG aspect of the game. In the previous Mass Effect games, we had the Paragon and Renegade system that represented the morality within the game. When you chose Paragon-related actions in dialogue, you'd become friendly with others, while the Renegade options made you a proper asshole. In Mass Effect Andromeda, the dialogue is less black and white, and you'll have to choose between emotional, logical, casual, and professional choices. The game will also track who you talk to and who you don't talk to. That will also affect the events that happen and the conversations you lead in the future. We'll also be able to develop trust with squad members. It looks like being liked by everyone is going to be problematic, because sometimes a squad member will dislike the fact that we like someone else, so the relationship within the game can easily become a soap opera, especially if we start adding love triangles. It does seem like the game will have a decent amount of depth based from your actions and conversations alone, so perhaps making the combat a separate system designed mostly for fun isn't that bad of an idea. The dialogue and game depth kinda links into my next topic, which is the exploration and the planets that can be visited. BioWare recently made a video regarding this topic and it actually made me even more interested than before, so I guess their marketing worked on me. We know that each planet will have its own atmospheric chemistry and climate, which will require the player to keep an eye on their stats at all times, especially in heavily toxic environments. It seems like there will be around 100 planets that we can interact with and maybe around 10 that we can land on, possibly less. All of the explorable planets have their own citizens, stories, secrets, and I'm sure that they all have enough content to keep people busy for a long time. This is something that I also prefer. There is something nice about exploring hundreds of planets, but when you have a few handcrafted worlds with high density of information, they can easily suck you in like a very attractive vacuum cleaner. I'm hoping to see variety on all of the planets, not just on a planetary scale, but on the planets themselves. Having a massive desert planet is fine, as long as it has caves with lava and strange minerals, or mountains showered by electric storms and filled with alien pillars from an ancient civilization. The freedom to explore makes very little sense if the world that is being explored doesn't seem worthy of said exploration, but like I mentioned before, I have good reason to believe that the game has enough depth and meaning on each one of these planets, which will make them worth exploring and finding all sorts of weird tentacle monsters that will hopefully be available for the penis. Speaking of the penis, the only thing we know about the romancing options is that it will be possible to have casual relationships and friendships, and that the system is now more realistic, which means it will probably be difficult to maintain multiple relationships at once. I mean, I have difficulties keeping any relationships at all. Not sure how it is for the rest of you. Also, the rating for the game has been changed from partial nudity to full nudity, which means that the realistic romancing system will also be visual, which is something everyone is surely looking forward to seeing. I'd also like to touch on the technical aspects of the game. The trilogy has been developed in Unreal Engine 3, while Andromeda gained its existence through the Frostbite engine, the same engine that was used for Dragon Age and Inquisition, which means that the games are able to share assets between themselves. Other games developed by Frostbite are Battlefield 4, Mirror's Edge 2, Star Wars Battlefront, and quite a few others, mostly EA titles of course. Due to this engine change, some say that the game feels different compared to the initial trilogy, while it keeps the same style, due to the game design and assets being similar to the previous games. Some have also reported glitches and technical errors while playing the preview version of the game, which may or may not be present in the final version. Whatever the case may be, I'm looking forward to playing it, and hopefully it will be a good game that will feature cool characters, secrets and places worth exploring. Mass Effect Andromeda will be available on EA Access a week before the March 21st release, and I hope I won't get screwed over by the regional release. It would suck to get the game 2 days after the Americans, just because I live where I live. Thanks for watching, and let me know what do you think about the game. I have been Petard, your glorious lord, and may the blessings of Petard eternally touch your butt.